Welcome back to Bay Area Sports Night, a program that is about to get epic. The man to my left, epic Bill Bradley, sports superstar. All right, he's done everything from swimming the English Channel, ran rim to rim at the Grand Canyon, ultra marathons in horrible conditions, triple Ironmans, traveled the world climbing the globe's highest mountains. You are 12 days removed from an expedition at Mt.Rainier. Welcome to the program. Thank you for coming back. I want to break down all the adventures because you also have Everest on your mind, so we'll get to that in this interview as well. This is always a great time. All right, so let's start with Rainier. How would you describe your most recent expedition?
Yeah, I think the idea of Rainier is it's like a good training ground for Denali, which I have not made 4 times. It's very similar, steep, crevices, you know, where when you fall in, it's not good. And so it was really good for me, and I'd worked really hard on my uphill, you know, because I'm not comfortable on steep, or didn't used to be steep slopes where you're using crampons and it's icy, and if you slide, you could die. Those make me a little nervous.
Yeah, that
and
would
so
be bad.
it was good,
Yeah.
you know. I just keep doing, but if you keep doing whatever your fear is, you eventually become numb to it. So you keep doing it, and then it doesn't. It's like in pro sports, they see how the game slows down. You keep getting up on that steep stuff, it starts not looking as steep. And you're like going, and you start trusting your crampons and stuff. So it was really good for me getting up there. I was very strong on the uphill, but I had trouble on Denali falling in the crevice. And the guy asked the last time I was up there, and so my downhill now I'm having trouble because I'm gripping. That's when you're stressing when you move downhill. And I did have trouble on Shasta coming down. And I was honest with the guide on Rainier. He says, hey, if you can't stay with the group on the way down, you should turn around now, which is a little bit below the summit. We're a couple thousand feet. And so I went down then, and I probably fell 7 times, so it's probably good I didn't stay with the group.
Yikes.
So,
but I'm trying to get over that fear, yeah.
how long does it take you to recover from a journey like that?
I was
Get
just
your body
saying,
back
like,
feeling right.
I feel good. You know what happens is it's like this. It's like you start feeling, you have like a good day, and you go, oh, I think I'm recovered. Then you have a terrible day, right? Like yesterday was terrible, right? I was like, oh, I feel like crap. Today I feel good again. And then they start coming faster and faster, and then you're over it.
You had mentioned that leading up to Rainier that you had gone to Mount Shasta, and people, we were talking about the fact that because it's in California, people won't consider Mount Shasta to be one of the treacherous peaks, but it is deceivingly challenging, huh?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It was my 4th attempt, and we had when we got to the ridge, it was 45-mile-an-hour continuous wind,
Yikes.
85-mile-an-hour gusts. We were like the only ones up there, that went up, and that's just because my guide knew how bad I wanted to make it.
So these are images of Shasta
Yeah.
we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the conditions up there.
What's the temperature?
That's Denali there. Not super cold. Maybe 30s, maybe. I can't remember. But it was the wind that was so treacherous, and it got to whiteout conditions. See that? It's like you couldn't see anything. So when I was coming down, and I'm tensing from going down, I can't see the ground, and so you're stepping, and it makes you tense more, obviously.
Right.
But it took me a really long time to get off of Shasta, and so. But going up was great. I mean, like I said, the guide, I was shocked that he would take me up, right? It's their judgment, with that. But he knew I wanted to make it, and he took us down the back side of the hill. So we weren't on the ridge. We weren't taking the full force of the wind. But when we got up near the top, it was like, and so I was grabbing on these rocks. We go from one rock to the next rock and hold on to them. But it was like, and I go, I can't die because he might lose his job.
Oh my God. Yikes.
I'm only semi-kidding about that
right.
too.
No, exactly. I'm like, okay, should I laugh at that? I don't know. Like, what kind of turn is this interview taking right now? That is really something else.
Yeah, now what's next?
Next, I was saying I'm going kind of back to my high school roots, and I'm going to run go for a 6-minute mile. I was a miler in high school. I ran into, the girl who was our mile record holder. She ran at the same time I did in high school. And her record just recently got broken, so I talked to her a little bit about it. I said, hey, I'm thinking about going out and trying to run a 6-minute mile. And she said, you'll never, ever, 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 ever do one of those. It was like, I said, 5 never evers?
Right.
I got a coach who's training me to run 135 miles in Minnesota. I said, we got a little project we got to do before that. I got to run a 6-minute mile.
Have you done a mile recently? Like, where
I
are we
haven't
at
done
right
one
now?
in 20 years.
Okay.
I think, I tried it at the end of last
Yeah.
year, but I was sick and I was trying to train for it was too close to the race in Minnesota.
Okay.
So yeah, the Arrowhead. And so this year it's further out, and I'm definitely under. I know I can go under 7, probably pretty close. But I've been doing all mountain climbing. I mean, I just got done with it 12 days ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like shifting into running. And I'm getting skinnier. I'm dropping down in weight because I was 155 pounds in high school. I'm going to shoot for like 185.
You're always finding a way to squeeze in these activities here. I'm looking at your calendar right now. It is a jam-packed agenda right now because in January 2020, you have the Arrowhead 135. It is described as one of the toughest races in the world. Take our viewers into this world, all right? What makes it so difficult?
Okay, so I'll tell you the first time I went out there, I had run 100 miles in Alaska.
This is in Minnesota. Yes?
Yeah, when I went to this is International Falls, Minnesota, right on the Canadian border, coldest spot in the continental U.S. And when I went out there, I decided this is where cold to the bone was invented because it was so cold that year. It was minus 35, and it was like I bought the best gloves in Santa Rosa. My hands were like numb. I couldn't get into my sled and stuff. I remember I went to the first checkpoint and I had to put my hand over the gas station hot dog warmer just so I could start thawing them out. And it's 35 miles in between checkpoints. You go 12 hours. Sometimes Sometimes I've gone through the night and never seen a soul, And if something happens, which anyway.
And where exactly is this?
It's International Falls. It's where Rocky and Bullwinkle made famous, Frostbite Falls. They call it Frostbite Falls because it's so cold.
What is the training regimen for an event like that?
I go out and start pulling my sled up and down the beach, so, I'll go out to the beach, and in Santa Rosa, I was doing it, by Bodega Bay, out there, Doran Beach. And then, I go in a meat locker, like Rocky. And so there's this meat locker in this field, and I put my stationary bike in the meat locker, and I start riding my stationary bike, just to kind of get used to the cold, because it's such a shock when you go out there from here. Just gets me a little bit acclimated. I test out, my food, test out my equipment, my gloves, make sure my gloves are working. Now I buy like the best gloves I can get online.
Yikes. 135 miles, Jason. How about that?
I'm over here looking at International Falls on Wikipedia. He got me so interested in this place. It's so darn cold. I had to make sure to never go there. I just got nightmares just looking at it. That's wild, man.
You hear about fighters, and they'll go to, or football players, they're going to go play a game in Denver, all right? They're going to go to somewhere that's really high, all right? They're going to go to Mile High or somewhere like that just to get acclimated to the conditions, all right? It sounds like before you're going to these places, you're still training in the Bay Area. How much of a difference does that make?
It's huge, but I learned from those first couple times where I went out there on like 2 days' notice. Last year, in fact, is because I took time off. I went out there for 2 months and trained, but I was sick. I got sick out there. Spent most of my time in the hotel. It didn't really help me. It hurt me, but yeah, just so I get out there, try the gear, try your food out. My buddy lives out there. He's like super badass. He's like he's a fishing guy during the summer, and I mean, he's like, I don't know, he's finished the race. He's like a survivalist. He knows everything about the cold. So he helps me out.
Everybody interested in signing up, Jason, from what you've read about this book?
I'm literally just sitting, taking it all in, and I'm thinking of like it in my head, like, what if I had to do that? I couldn't do it. I hate the cold so much. I mean, whenever the people complain about the heat, I would rather be sweating, because I feel like when you're hot, you can just take your shirt off. When you're cold, it's like you're screwed.
I know.
It takes a different type of mental toughness. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I've had frostbite. I had minor frostbite out there once. 2 years ago, I was out. I made it to 70 miles. I was 2 hours ahead of the cutoff, but I took a break. I mean, I had to take camp out, you know. And it's just like if you're too, like to do my zippers and stuff, I get down to my liner glove, and if you just take a little too long, I got frostbite. You know, so then
you
put me out of the race.
do you know how Antonio Brown is feeling on the Raiders? Frostbite on his feet.
I know. Maybe we should talk, man.
Well, exactly. We have the images of Antonio Brown's feet. Please entertain us with this tangent here, Bill, because Antonio Brown, the Raiders receiver, he had suffered frostbite on his feet because of a cryotherapy chamber mishap. He was wearing improper footwear. Looking at that, have you had something like that? And if so, how long does the recovery take?
I've had frostbite so bad that my thumb turned black. I had to go to 3 doctors till they told me I could keep it. Very painful, extremely painful, especially when you're walking around in the Bay Area and nobody even knows that it's painful.
How long does it take to recover from something like that?
A couple months.
Yikes.
Couple months, but I was functionable. I don't know if I could have caught a football.
Right.
But it hurt. It hurts a lot. It's like a really bad burn.
Oof.
Yeah, it's like a really bad burn.
What does the mobility? How is that affected of all of that? I mean, can you even feel it? I mean, how long does it take for feeling to return?
It was numb for a while, and is it all the way there now? I don't know.
How real was the conversation about possibly losing it?
It was like they wouldn't commit. I went to 2 doctors and they go, we don't know. We have to see how it heals up.
They don't want to give you the wrong
They didn't
answer.
want, yeah, they go, we have to, and these are ones up in Alaska where I had it happen. And then by the time I went to 2 of them, and then I went to a 3rd, and that guy goes, he was like, can you feel that? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, I think you're going to keep it. I go, that's the last opinion. I put a glove on it. I never took it out again. I didn't want any amateur, because I was walking around town and somebody goes, geez, that thumb, you're not out of the clear yet, you know, that looks bad. I had a course on it, and everybody's an expert, you know.
Right.
And so then I put the glove, go, nobody's going to know about it now.
What was the treatment program looking like?
I think we iced it and stuff and soaked it, and maybe I had some ointment I put on it, you know.
You iced frostbite.
I don't remember.
No, that's, I mean, what is the science behind this?
No, I don't. Well, it was when it hurt, when it was done, and it would hurt so much. I think I was icing it a little bit. I can't remember the pain. It was pretty unbelievable, the pain, like throbbing, like really bad, because it's like a really bad burn, you know, just like my thumb was all black, you know. So yeah, it was, yeah.
So we're well aware of all these extreme excursions you go in the blistering cold. Do you ever have the opposite? Are you ever doing anything in extreme heat?
Oh yeah, no, I've done Badwater in Death Valley where you run 100. It's considered one of arguably the toughest race in the world. Although I've had better luck there than I have in Minnesota. But it's 135 miles and you run it in mid-July, and it's been 125.
What's more taxing on your body, the extreme heat
Well,
or
you
extreme
got
cold?
I don't know. You got company.
Neither are ideal.
You have a van near you. Nobody wants you to die in Death Valley. So there's a van near you, and so if you get overheated, they're giving you ice scarves. You can pour water on your head. They're trying to keep you alive. Right. When you're in Minnesota, you're alone. But I am going to be attempting an event in Death Valley where you go the 135 miles unsupported. You put all your ice and your water on a cart. It weighs like 150 pounds, and only 3 people or 4 have ever done it. And you got to push it all the way across, and you can't have any outside stuff. You know what I mean? And you're like, I don't even know how it's possible, but damn, 3 people have done it, or 4, so I want to try it.
How long does something like that take?
Somebody I heard who made it took 80 hours, and you're in that heat all day long. My buddy was out there doing a run, and they came across some lady who was laying under a bush who had been trying to do it, and she was off the course, off the road a little bit, and they got her in their van, and
People must get sunburned.
You're putting a lot of sunblock on.
Yeah.
Back when I first started doing Badwater, like 10 years ago, we used to wear Lawrence of Arabia sheets because the sunblock wasn't that good. Now the sunblock's a lot better, so you put sunblock
Does
on.
it get to the point where you're having hallucinations just because of the heat is so unbearable? It's doing to your body?
Yeah, you know what? When I did my quadruple Badwater, so that's 4 times across 2 Mount Whitney summits, right? I was the 4th person ever to do that. Took like 3 weeks. I'm coming back on my last crossing. I'd gone like 2 hours. This wind is whipping. It's like a furnace hitting you. And I remember I normally have a sense of humor, right? And I'm very grateful for my crew. And I get up and I knock on the window, like my 2 hours, I need to take a break, right? You know? And I knock on the window and they joke around like they're pushing the little, like they're locking me out. I go, that's not funny. That's not funny. I go, you get out of here if you think that's funny. I go, whoa, I really lost it.
Wow. It is crazy.
But yeah, I've had more hallucinations in up when I've done the cold races in up in Minnesota when I've raced the Susitna. The guy told me, whatever you do, if you see a moose on the trail, do not, you know what I mean? Don't go near it. If you have to go 100 yards around it, you go 100 yards around it, because in the winter they're cranky and they'll attack
very territorial.
This
Yeah,
is a real
Very
thing. Like
territorial. I've been to Alaska and they told us the same thing. They don't get near those moose.
they're grouchy
Oh yeah, very territorial animals, and they'll kill you so fast.
with the horns.
They stomp you.
Oh,
They
yeah.
stomp you.
So
They
this-
don't even gouge you. They just go and stomp you.
He's because you know what? Right before I did that race, my buddies, the guy who told me that, he goes, you know why I'm telling you that? Because my stepfather or whatever, he was out walking between his buildings and a moose hit him from behind and started stomping him, but he was able to flip over and shoot him. He was packing.
Oh my
He
Lord.
shot him and he lived because the snow was soft. But then of course I'm doing the race, I get all delirious and I think every tree is a moose. I go, that's a moose! I gotta go 100 yards around it.
Next thing you know, you've gone 50 miles around the course.
Yeah, and then last time that I did Minnesota, when I did Arrowhead, I kept thinking, I kept coming up to trees because I was so delirious, you know, you get so out of it in the dark. I'm thinking people, like some guy's hanging from a tree. I go, oh my God, there's some guy. It's never like you see somebody in a bikini on a beach or something. It's like some horrible thing you hallucinate. It's like, that guy, somebody's dead, he's hanging there. Oh, and then you get up to it and it's just a tree, you know.
That is terrifying. Now, I'm looking at the rest of your calendar, okay? Because you had the 6-minute mile, the Arrowhead race in Minnesota, February of 2020, the 3rd attempt to climb Mount Aconcagua. That is the highest mountain in the Western Hemisphere in Chile. What made the last trip such a challenge for you?
Down there?
Yeah.
Oh, I was sick. I mean, I literally was from Arrowhead, and I did a race before Arrowhead, and I was sick for like months, like 5 months. I mean, at this low level of sickness. And so I went down there, and I gave it everything I had, though. My guide, it was like we were going up to high camp, and it was like freaking super windy, and all this, you know, snow and stuff is hitting us, and I'm on my hands and knees puking. And he looks at me and he's like, we still going up? I go, oh yeah, we're going up.
If I'm puking is usually the end of the road for me.
Seriously, I start blowing chunks, I'm throwing the red flag.
Yeah, wow, that
Yeah,
really-
so it was rough. And then when you got to go down, you're like, it's so rough because you're so weak and sick, and you know. And then I called him. I said, hey, because when I go back this time in my 3rd attempt, he's all like, you're coming again? I go, oh yeah. I never quit, man.
Right.
I never quit.
There you go. The mental toughness training really is something, huh?
Oh yeah.
Probably half the battle. Just the
Oh,
mental.
more than that. It's a huge amount. Yeah, the mental is like off the charts. You gotta believe that you can do it and have the confidence, you know. And then you better have the physical training too. But mentally, you could be cracked out there easily.
So you have 6 major events over the next 12 months, but you had mentioned that in the next 2 years, Everest is on the radar. What are you anticipating the training is going to look like for that expedition?
I think it will be.
Because
I'll do more research.
Are you
but,
anticipating that will be your most difficult challenge?
I don't know. I'd have to try it. It's always whatever I'm doing at the time. I always think is the worst. Like I've been in the English Channel swimming in a storm and lost the boat. If you had asked me right then, what's worse, this or mountain climbing? I said this is worse because I can't find the boat.
Right.
But you know, and then when I'm up on a mountain, I remember I was up, you know, or even I remember when I was racing Arrowhead and it was at minus 35 and I'm 135 miles and I'm in the middle of this and I'm going like, and it's getting dark and it's so cold. I'm starting to shiver. And I thought to myself, I go, okay, I got to make myself feel better. And I was like, okay, was the English Channel worse than this? I go, it's close. I don't know. But I could always think of an event that's worse, then I feel better, you know? So it's hard. Some of these things are harder to find events that are worse because the ones I'm doing now are like the hardest things in the world.
Yeah, and you know, what we're seeing recently, especially in regard to Everest, is the fact that it's gotten so crowded up there, right? It's a traffic jam. It's like you're waiting in line at a concession stand at a stadium, okay? Because you have all these people waiting.
Yeah.
I mean, are you concerned about that or what the conditions are going to be like?
I think, you know, I called a friend of mine who summited and I asked her what she felt about it. I talked to a guide who summited it. You know, these were the guide company that I used for Mt.Rainier. They also guide there. And, you know, from what it just sounds like there was one day that was a nice day and everybody went for it that day. It wasn't that there's a huge amount more permits than ever before. It's just that everybody went for it on the same day. And it's kind of fluke, you know. And they said they didn't run into the problem with their teams up there. So I don't know. I get more detail on it. But usually, I don't know, I don't know why I don't worry about that stuff. I'd rather, you know, I'll be in the conga line.
Everest,
you got to kid about it, by the way, otherwise you cry and you ain't doing it.
You'd be upset about it. Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Everest, Jason, how about that, huh?
It's wild. I couldn't fathom.
It's still the tallest mountain in the world, man.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And it's so treacherous. Would you think that you need to go there really early? I mean, and have months of training?
I'd love to go up to base camp just to kind of get a feel for it, you know? And that is reasonable, you know. Everest is expensive, but going to base camp is reasonable. And, you know, you get a little bit, you just kind of get in the air, you know? Like I remember, you know, before I did my first Ironman, I went and watched one. You just kind of get in the energy, you know, kind of, you know, get used to it.
Epic Bill Bradley. Where can our viewers track your journeys and really support what you're going through?
Yeah, was in a couple filmmakers filmed me out at Arrowhead, so hopefully I'm going to be in 2 documentaries coming out and down at Mount Aconcagua. And then I have a website, Epic Bill Bradley. Yeah, and I do a vlog, so I'll film my training, and you know when I'm up on Rainier, I film it, and on Shasta, film it.
Yeah, hear that? Epic Bill Bradley. You can track his story. You can track his adventures. 6 major events over the next 12 months. We'll see what's next after that, all right? Let's pile on 10 more. Who knows, all right? Really crazy stuff. Thank you so much. Epic Bill Bradley, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a quick break on Bay Area Sports Night.